Today's hearing dives straight into one of the most explosive debates in recent UK politics: grooming gangs, accountability, and whether West Yorkshire's leaders failed victims for far too long. At the centre of it all, Deputy Mayor for Policing facing tough questions after years of resisting a national inquiry. The stakes? Nothing less than justice for survivors who say they've been ignored, silenced, and let down. But here's the twist. After dismissing a national inquiry for years, today she suddenly changes her stance. What caused the U-turn? And does this shift represent accountability or political survival? Let's break it down.
Robbie Moore.
Thank you, Chair. To start with, I'm just going to focus on Dame Casey's report that came out this morning. We had Baroness Casey in front of us this morning, and maybe, Alison, if I can direct these questions to you, if that would be okay. So, Baroness Casey has now called for a national inquiry into grooming gangs, specifically one that investigates failings at a local level. Yet for years, both the Mayor of West Yorkshire and yourself, as the Deputy Mayor for Policing, have consistently pushed back on an inquiry that specifically focuses on the Bradford district. And as recently as 13 days ago, your office was still briefing the press that a national inquiry wasn't necessary. So do you accept that you were wrong in your role as Deputy Mayor for Policing to oppose a national inquiry into grooming gangs? And what message do you have to victims and survivors like Fiona Goddard, who I was with last night and who focused on Newsnight, who are absolutely infuriated by the position that local leaders like yourself have been taking across West Yorkshire?
First of all, hello, Robbie. I did expect that question. So first and foremost, can I say that as a survivor of child rape, as you know, I have been very clear that I wanted to ensure the voices of the victims that I was speaking to were reflected in my decision making and my thinking around a national inquiry. The victims, many hundreds of victims that I was speaking to, and I shared this view as a survivor myself, believed that an inquiry would not lead to the outcomes that they were seeking, which were a cessation of the abuse, prevention of future abuse for other victims. They wanted justice and the police to catch those perpetrators. And finally, they wanted the right funding for services in their local area so that they could move on with their lives. They could get the support and the support that they needed, the counselling that they needed. And so, based on that feedback, based on that victim-led approach and my own lived experience, but also the fact that there had been a 7-year, nearly £200 million national inquiry, the ICSA review, which had submitted its report in 2022. None of the recommendations had been implemented at that time. I felt that I wanted to validate the views of local victims, and I did not want another inquiry that would take resources, time and energy away from what the victims were wanting in West Yorkshire. Furthermore, in West Yorkshire, we have got some outstanding police practice, which I know has been commented on this morning by Dame Casey, but also by the Home Secretary yesterday in Parliament. We not only have brought lots of perpetrators to justice, 210 perpetrators sent to prison for over 2,300 years in West Yorkshire. But this is all part of my decision making, Robbie. You need to let me answer the question in full. And that backdrop, we're doing better than any other force in terms of outcomes for victims. Tracy and I have violence against women and girls at the heart of our plan. We both have lived experience that we're bringing to our challenge and accountability piece with policing. We're listening to victims who are sceptical about national inquiries. Therefore, I believe that a national inquiry would be a distraction from the work that we were doing together. However, having seen the case review, I haven't quite finished it. I've been reading it on the train this morning. I welcome that review. I welcome the findings of that review and the recommendations that are being made. I have to say I wept yesterday when I was watching the Home Secretary talk about the changes that she's going to be implementing, especially around decriminalising those children who were made to be perpetrators through no actions of their own. And I was proud of the Labour government at that moment that they had listened to victims and were acting. So I stand by my comments before the Casey review was published. I believe that I listened to victims. I'm still listening to victims, but I accept the findings of the Casey review. I personally would love to meet Fiona. I'm very happy to meet her because I've met so many victims, to understand what she would like to see out of this review. And just to say, we have written now to our third sector 45 providers across West Yorkshire to ask them specifically what would they like us to be saying to the Home Secretary, who is commissioning the inquiry, so that we get their voices embedded into those terms of reference to make sure that the voices of West Yorkshire are clearly there.
Well, it's frustrating that it's taken a national embarrassment to get you and the Mayor of West Yorkshire to change their position on this. At a local level, do you accept, given the level of concern that has consistently been raised about the Bradford district in particular, that Bradford as a district should focus or have a spotlight on it as part of this national inquiry?
So I understand this morning that Dame Casey has said that Bradford is likely to be one of the areas chosen. And as I say, I read her review, her audit. I believe that she's a woman who knows what she's talking about. And if she says that that's going to happen, then I'm happy to support that.
Finally, on ethnicity, do you believe that men of Pakistani heritage are overrepresented in cases of grooming in West Yorkshire? And if so, why?
Notice how the questioning zeroes in on Bradford, an area consistently named in reports, yet long shielded from direct scrutiny. The Deputy Mayor tries to balance her personal experiences as a survivor with political responsibility, but Robbie Moore presses hard. If victims have been calling for accountability for years, why only now acknowledge the need? This is a critical tension in courtroom politics. Leaders often justify inaction by citing resources or previous reviews, yet survivors say nothing changes without fresh, transparent investigation. Here's the question for you. Do you think her resistance was about protecting victims or protecting political reputations?
I do believe that, and I believe that because I've seen the data. I haven't always seen the data. The data has been patchy, as you know, and the Home Secretary said that herself yesterday. In West Yorkshire, we've got about 65% of the data, and about a third is missing. And in West Yorkshire, about a third of our data is showing that, according to the report, according to Dame Casey's report, about a third of our data is showing that men of Pakistani heritage have been perpetrators. I don't know what data she got from what period. I presume it's from when the unit was set up. So we've got a dedicated unit in West Yorkshire, a CSEA unit. So I presume it's from 2016 to the current day. It could be a shorter period than that. So absolutely. And in fact, about 5 or 6 months ago, I was interviewed by Rob Parsons. You may know him. I did a podcast, so it's there for the world to see. And I talked about the data then. And in fact said at that point, because it changes and it's very fluid, as you know, about 80% of the cases that have been looked at in that period were Pakistani heritage. So I've always been open about the reality of group-based childhood sexual abuse and exploitation in the years that we've been talking about, from 2015 when our unit was set up to the current day, having a disproportionality in favour of Pakistani heritage men.
And finally, just on this point,
I think just the data, according to the page 84, it's between 2020 and 2024 is the West Yorkshire data.
Yeah, but from 25, that's the 80%. Yeah.
And finally, just on this point, just given a local level within the Bradford district, there's been so much pushback at a local level by the leader of Bradford Council, and dare I say, by yourself and by the Mayor of West Yorkshire as well, that there should be no focus on the Bradford district because there will be no new lessons that are learned and it would cost the taxpayer too much. And even though the Mayor of West Yorkshire was saying that up until recent as a couple of weeks ago, in the knowledge that money was going to be allocated nationally, do you, just for the record, now believe that actually it is right to welcome more openness, more transparency and more accountability and have a spotlight shone across the Bradford district on this issue?
They're making 2 points there. The first point is that
well, yes or no would be really helpful.
But it's not a yes or no answer, is it?
I'm not sure
you
why.
Asked, you talked about me pushing back in Bradford. I made the point that Bradford had had 74 reviews, including an independent...
These 74 reviews, okay, some of them, again, we had this point with with Baroness Casey this morning, where the response being back from you is, and you're the leader of Bradford Council, this is relying on serious case reviews, which Baroness Casey has been critical of that, even in the recommendations that she's put forward to the Home Office. So the 74 figure, I'm afraid I do not accept.
You might not accept that, but my narrative was that there had been many, many reviews, 74 or less, you decide, and that the work that we were doing in West Yorkshire collectively and the voices that I had heard, the voices of survivors and victims, was that I didn't want a review anywhere in West Yorkshire, and Bradford is obviously in West Yorkshire. Secondly, the point...
Has your position changed? That's all I want to know. Do you
so
support
I think
a
I've already
review
responded to that question. You said, should Bradford be included earlier? And I said, Baroness Casey has already intimated that Bradford will be one of those chosen. And I've said, I 100% accept Baroness Casey's review. And if she thinks Bradford is going to be included, then Bradford will be included.
Thanks, Chair. That's all I wanted to ask. And it's just frustrating, I think, for all of the committee to see that we have the Deputy Mayor of Policing in front of us who is not getting behind calls for an inquiry at a national level across the Bradford district.
But I didn't say that at all. Please don't put words in my mouth.
Can I just be clear? What does Baroness Casey know that you don't know? Why has her view made you change your mind?
Well, if you remember, Baroness Casey started off as I did, feeling that a national inquiry wasn't going to be required. She's obviously seen a lot of information that I haven't, not just from Bradford, actually Bradford
About
Council.
Bradford, though. Why Bradford? You know an awful lot about Bradford.
Yeah.
What does she know that you don't know, so that you are agreeing with her view now that there should be an inquiry in Bradford?
What I'm saying is, I hold her in high esteem. She has seen a lot of information. Actually, she's very, in the bit of the report that I've read, I haven't concluded reading the report, she's got some warm words about some of the work that's happened in Bradford, the partnership working, the evolution of the partnership over a period of time. And actually, Bradford's, the data for Bradford is not the worst in West Yorkshire. But
My question, though...
I don't think she knows anything more than I do about Bradford.
And why are you therefore agreeing with what she's saying? She said there will probably be a review into Bradford. You're saying you agree with that.
I'm agreeing with the whole of her recommendations. And if she's saying to me that Bradford needs to be the one of the local authorities that's included, I'm not going to argue with that, because...
Why not? If you know more about it, why not?
Well, because it's
You all
not...
said it shouldn't be, didn't you?
Well, she said it shouldn't be, and now she's saying there should be an inquiry.
But what does she know you don't know?
And now I'm agreeing that there should be an inquiry. And if there's an inquiry that's based on some local areas, then why not Bradford? Why not Bedford? Why not Carlisle? If she says... she's been to Bradford, we invited her to Bradford. Bradford Council leader invited her to Bradford. We shared a lot of the good work that's happening, not just there, but across West Yorkshire. So I don't know, maybe she thinks there's some good learning as well as some things that we need to have lessons for the future. I am open, because what she said first and centre was there's been a lot of defensiveness, lack of transparency. If she's saying she wants to come to Bradford, I'm saying the door is open. Tracy and I will support anyone to come into West Yorkshire, any part of West Yorkshire. We will make that as easy as possible, because we want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
The door's unlocked, okay.
Let's move on.
What we just witnessed is a textbook example of political pressure forcing a shift in narrative. For years, local leaders rejected a national inquiry, insisting Bradford had been reviewed enough. But with Dame Casey's report highlighting systemic failures, suddenly that door is now wide open. The Deputy Mayor maintained she was always listening to victims, yet her critics argue this turnaround only came after national embarrassment. Either way, the implications are massive. A renewed spotlight on Bradford, deeper accountability for grooming gang failures, and perhaps long overdue justice for survivors. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.